Running 5 minutes later than planned because of earlier cricket coverage, this is Hendrix Night here on BBC Two. So, still to come then, the great man's first set from Woodstock in 1969. That's in half an hour. First on BBC Two, there's proof that even now Hendrix is taking on the establishment and winning.
Blue plaques will never really fade away, will they?
Well, not in our minds, and they won't in other people's, because once they're up on the wall, they're here to stay.
We could just do a thing for James, which I think he'd really appreciate.
This is the original letter that I sent to English Heritage. It reads, "Dear Lord Montague, I'm writing to you regarding the erection of a blue plaque at 23 Brook Street, West 1, to commemorate the residence there of Jimi Hendrix. He lived there with me between 1968 and 1969.
In February 1992, Lord Montague, who was then the chairman of English Heritage, received a letter from Cathy Etchingham proposing a blue plaque to Jimi Hendrix. This was the reply. Dear Ms. Etchingham, you will probably know that we've received a number of requests that a blue plaque should be erected at number 23 Brook Street to commemorate Jimi Hendrix's residence there.
It is interesting that the house is next door to the house in Brook Street which Handel lived in and is already commemorated by a blue plaque. Yours sincerely, Cathy Etchingham."
Well, I'll just say why we as a committee, we were certainly trying to extend the ranges of areas that we were looking at, and we'd certainly felt that it would be nice to be able to recognise the pop world in some way. Hendrix came to us as an unusual figure. He was obviously a very significant figure of that period, and his reputation has obviously lasted. It was obviously a rather evocative period anyway, the 60s, and he seemed to represent that.
And we were also, weren't we, excited by the malice of putting it next to Handel?
Yes, so certainly.
Because it was a very good story, wasn't
Yes.
it? I mean, the deep shock horror of the musical establishment saying, good heavens, contaminating our lovely street with the plaque to this dreadful man.
Indeed, some of us have probably never heard his music at all, but we all felt that there was a name that we would like to commemorate.
Hello, mate. How are you doing? Good. Is this the place?
When was the last time you were here?
Here, 1968.
Did you used to come here a lot?
I came here a few times, you know, we used to sort of hang out. You know, after tours, we used to sort of like come back here and like come and hang out here and then go down and find a local pub or something.
Right, what are you all doing hanging around here? How are you, darling? What are you doing hanging around outside 23 Brook Street? This used to be the door, right, to the flat?
I know.
Here we go.
Remember.
Just with the door's missing, it doesn't quite look the same.
Who lives here now?
It's really deteriorated, hasn't it?
This was to the room?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah. It's
the
more,
bedroom?
Yeah, this is it.
Where was the bed?
There.
That's right.
Down there.
Looking out the thing.
Yeah, but I thought
Where's
the
the
room
bed gone?
Ah, it's still there. Up here, this little tiny
Where
staircase.
people used to fall down and...
Yeah, people used to fall down
Fall
these stairs.
up as
Yeah,
well.
fall up, fall down. Many people fell down those stairs. Jimmy was up here one day, and he came downstairs, and Madeline Bell was downstairs with me, and he swore that he saw Handel's ghost standing in the mirror behind him. Now, the mirror must have been here where this blue patch is. Well, yes, obviously, that's exactly where it was, look. So he must have thought that he'd seen the ghost of Handel.
How many ingredients do you have in total?
I think it's about 9. Now we actually get down to the serious business.
This is the one I saw when I was a little girl, 7 years old.
Is it?
Lovely.
Tell me about this plaque.
This is the first plaque I ever saw which started me on my plaque jaunts, as it were. I saw it when I was about 7 years old. So I caught myself a 38 bus, which dropped me off in Victoria. Didn't know any of the streets up here, you know, I lived in Hackney. Whizzed around and stopped at this plaque, stopped and read it. And suddenly, plaqueitis set in.
How many have you seen now?
650.
About 650 of them. We've got about 12 more to do.
But we both have the ability to visualise these people in their own setting.
What do you see when you visualise Mozart?
Nothing, I hear. I hear him tinkling away at the piano. You really, really can. You can hear the notes. You can hear them in his head. And he's transmitting them to Well, these earrings have all been worn when I've actually attended an unveiling of a blue plaque. And after I've done my research, I either get something absolutely apt or something really daft.
Frank, what's that?
This is reconstituted slate. Anyway, it's time to pour. So this is the moment of truth. This is the climax, I suppose.
The drum kit in that corner at one point. He jammed a lot in here, played a lot in here. His walls were just, you know, they could speak.
What would they say?
The music that they've heard, the artists they've seen that nobody else has heard. People say, oh, well, what did he do? You know, what was his favourite music? But it's the stuff that he played when he was here by himself or at home by himself, which was obviously his favourite music, and it was invariably blues. Right, now, is it damp enough? That's the thing.
I'm definitely going to extend that J. I think that's a little bit underdrawn.
Knowingly, I've never heard of a thing by Hendrix or listened to a thing by Hendrix.
But I don't think that he sets a precedent necessarily. I think he was an exceptional artist, and there'll be very few other figures that we could compare with him.
It seems to me that an instant quality of you can still recognize it, that name still echoes, is central.
Now, I think if we are worried about opening the sort of floodgates to a rash of rock or pop plaques, I don't think that's a concern that actually need to detain us for very long, because there simply are not the people of Hendrix's stature.
Essentially, I think that we must go partly for populism. I mean, if one, no, seriously, if one is to get interest in these things, and the sort of sniffiness that we tend to adopt on occasions, I think is misplaced.
But of course, Hendrix is heard by more people than Handel. Probably, well, I don't know. They're probably very comparable, actually, the number of people who listen to Hendrix and Handel.
Well, Handel was a great pop composer. Of course he was.
And of course, and he's lasted. But
I mean, you know, will Hendrix be as popular?
It's impossible to say, isn't it?
We don't know.
All we know is that over the last 20 years he's survived, which in the short life of the pop music is a very great time.
There is the story that Hendrix was actually told, "Did you know Handel lived next door?" Well, he probably did, because the plaque was already up then. And he's alleged to have said, "I don't really know the guy, but I listen to a bit of Bach now and then." So I'd like to think they're sort of catching up on lost time, wherever they are, in the musical section of heaven.
Well, we'll start with a J of Jimmy. I need a brush and water, Frank. We are so DIY, the pair of us. This is why we ever get anything finished.
Do you think you've learned something through doing these plaques?
It does make you think about the people, and you think about their lives, and why are you doing this? Sue isn't too happy about this, but I would like to put a plaque on this building saying that Frank and Sue Ashworth, makers of blue plaques, lived here.
I can see Frank's point, and I hope he didn't mean a big one, a full-size one. The last time we went and discussed things up in English Heritage, we knew this was coming off. I said, can I put in a bid for doing this one? And they were talking then about, there was even talk of perhaps carrying it out in purple.
No. The only cry we've always stuck to blue.
No, we haven't.
Because I was just going to go on to say.
No, we haven't. The first plaques were rather boring brown and Minton.
And I thought this would be so wonderful. You know, because of the connection. It's the name, isn't it, in the song.
Which song is that?
I went to his grave about 3 years ago and said a prayer for him. Then the clouds change. And then, I don't know if I can do this on film, you can always edit this. I smoked a joint for him. And I started coughing because it was very strong American grass. And I was standing on his coffin and I said, I'm sorry about this coffin.
No.
Yeah. And I left it there underneath a flower I brought, and I said, well, I shouldn't really leave it because he'll get busted again. That's a true story, you can use that or not. But don't tell the police in Seattle.
Well, this picture was taken in January, I think January of 1969. He'd obviously said something very funny because I was laughing my head off.
Did people get Handel and Hendrix's place confused?
Yes. People used to come here thinking that this was Handel's house. Well, you can see the blue plaques on that sort of adjoining wall, and it is, at first glance, hard to tell which house it is. So they used to come up here thinking this is where the Messiah was written. So, where he composed the Messiah.
What was their reaction when they saw
found
him?
Jimi Hendrix instead. Whoops. I understand that the Handel House Trust are raising money to renovate it along with the house next door. I think it's in the early stages. That there'll probably be, you know, Jimmy's room in the Handel Museum, something like that. I think that's great.
It's down to naught now, I suppose.
How do you think it's going to turn out?
How do I think? Who knows? Fingers crossed. Oh, it's intact.
Oh, every now and again I used to open up the curtains completely. But we didn't get out of bed until 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so it was always dark. And then, of course, as soon as it got dark, close the curtains again. So they used to call in the Bat, Kathy and the Bat.
I go up to Jimmy's room and all the curtains would be drawn and he'd have a velvet blue suit on and all the scars were put over the lamps in the room and it was completely dark. That's why we called him the Bat. Bless him.
It became apparent, talking to Kathy Etchingham, that that flat in Brook Street really was the only place Hendrix ever regarded as a sort of home, or perhaps as a pad, he might have called it. But it was the sort of place that he had furnished himself.
This must have been the same paper that was... Do you think we should tear it off and sell it?
Did you go to John Lewis together?
Yeah. Yes, because he chose the carpets and the curtains. Well, we chose them together, but I'm afraid that he probably was the, you know, it was his decision. He had flamboyant tastes. So we had red carpet and turquoise curtains. And there is a little piece of the carpet.
It's all smoothly fine.
There we are.
Yeah, but look, Kingsley Hall.
Yeah.
Well, I admire Gandhi for all the work he did. To have one down in Tower Hamlets is an honour, really. We often
I think
come here,
it was
don't
one
we?
of the first we became a bit emotional about. And we knew a bit of the history. We knew that when he came over here for his conference in '31, that he insisted on staying amongst his own people. They all wanted him to stay in the West End. You ask 100 people who walk by and say, do you know Gandhi? They know Gandhi. And that's what a blue plaque should be. You close your eyes and you visualise, and that's as simple as that.
He loved London. Anyway, we started here and he died here. Now he's got a plaque,
right,
which is wonderful. Oh well.
No. I don't think anything's going to stop it now.
unlike David Starkey, I actually do know a bit about Jimi Hendrix. Well, no, it's not a question of hairdos, Dr. Starkey. No, my older brother was constantly battering my bedroom walls with bits of Electric Ladyland, played at very loud volume in the farmhouse in which I grew up. Well, I'm surprised, Dr. Starkey, that you aren't keen on The Wind Cried Mary or Crosstown Traffic.
Why? Perhaps we all ought to listen to one before Sunday.
I think we'll be hearing quite a lot of.
I think we'll hear quite enough.
That'll do our training.
So this has got all the addresses on it, and I've taken one or two people off whom I know won't be able to make it.
Okay. Gerard, as you may or may not know, there is to be a blue plaque unveiled in September for Jimi Hendrix in Brook Street. That's right, and you'll be getting an invitation to this and a party afterwards. Now, we're asking, would it be possible if we could use one of your portraits, the black and white shot of him in the frogging jacket, smoking a cigarette, actually on the invitation itself?
I've got it in alphabetical order. So it's Alan Price, Alan White. I've got all of Queen, Andy Fairweather Low, Andy Summers, Ainsley Dunbar, Bee Gees, Brian Eno, Brian Ferry, Chris Farlow, Chris Stamp, Chris Walsh, Dave Mason, Dave Stewart, David Bowie, Donovan, blah 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 blah. And Eric, there's loads of them. Eric Clapton, Eric Burden, Eric Burden.
It's a really big deal. You know, he's the first rock musician ever to get a blue plaque. English Heritage, as you know, a very establishment organisation. There's going to be cordons, crowds, police.
Will you be inviting the people who make the plaques?
No. No.
Oh, yes.
Got to draw the line somewhere.
Cheers, then. Bye-bye now.
Great. I'm pleased with that. That's really good.
At last.
Can you operate both of them?
Good, right here. And the blue plaques, there are 18 blue plaques put up a year from the many suggestions we get. We had wanted to have a well-known pop figure for a blue plaque, but unfortunately, most of them are still alive, as you can see, and they're all around here. Now, to get a blue plaque, you have to have been dead for 20 years. And very sadly, Jimmy, of course, did, but his reputation has lived on.
Right, all I want to say, really, is that I think we needed a guitar player to do this. And I think maybe there are a few guitar players that can speak as well as I can speak. And I think that might be why it is best that I'm here today, because what's really important to say is that Jimmy was extremely special as a musician. He was extremely special as a performer. If you have only heard his recordings, you're only seeing and hearing a very, very small part of what Jimmy's genius was about. There's been a lot of talk about whether or not a pop performer, a rock performer, a blues performer, whatever Jimmy was, deserves to be on the building next door to George Frederick Handel. And I think he does. And I'm so proud to be able to pull this bit of string. I have to tell you, I am so proud.
How would you like to be remembered?
Honest craftsman, I would say.
How do you think you want to be remembered?
Who, me? I don't, in particular. Trouble is, if they remember you, they start talking about you.
How would you like to be remembered?
Me. She made us blooming laugh even though she was miserable herself. But I can always make people laugh. See you then.
See you.
Bye.
Bye. Would anyone here actually like to have a blue plaque?
I think all the others should have one.
Or perhaps we should have a record of where the Blue Plaque Committee used to meet.